Yo, how's it going, everyone? This is Mitchell Mander here, and welcome to another review of the Pokemon Journeys series, where we cover episode 65 in today's review, and it's the Ash vs. Iris episode. And I just have to say, this was a fantastic episode. Now, I'll go into a little bit more detail when I talk about it in the pro section of this review, but this is what I want to see in Pokemon Journeys. This is an example of Pokemon Journeys' potential at its finest, and this is exactly how you need to bring back a previous character, in my opinion. So, before we get another review, I just want to say if you're new to the channel, you like this type of content, be sure to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell. Alrighty, let's talk about this episode, shall we? The episode begins with Ash receiving a letter from Iris, requesting battle in the Unova region. And first of all, how in the world did Ash get this letter in the first place? Did Ash change his mailing address to the Sakuragi Labs, and that's how Iris got his address? Not really sure, but whatever. The other thing is that Lucario makes an appearance for the first time in 15 episodes? Yeah, after stealing the spotlight for forever, Lucario is kind of faded into irrelevancy, probably until Ash faces off against B again, but more on that later. Anyways, Ash and Go end up going to the Unova region, so that Ash can face off against Iris in battle in the Pokemon World Championships. So, as soon as they arrive in the Unova region, Ash and Go split up, with Ash going to the Opalistic City gym to meet up with Iris, whereas Go goes to catch Pokemon because this is Go, he's got to catch all the Pokemon. He ends up catching a Pansear, I believe, and a Panpour, and he thinks he found another Pokemon and throws his Pokeball up into the tree, but it turns out it's actually Iris, just like what Ash did way back when. Go did the same thing and hit Iris in the head with a Pokeball. But Iris can't stay for very long, so she ends up leaving because she's actually got somewhere to be. As Ash is walking up to the Opalistic City gym, he actually sees an Axnew. Now, he thinks this Axnew is Iris' Axnew. It turns out that's actually Drayden's Axnew. Now, more on Drayden in just a second. I just want to say there was a couple people online that actually thought that this Axnew was not Iris's, thinking that this was bait to make us think that this was Iris's Axnew. Whereas we did get a surprise in this episode. More on that surprise in a little bit. But I just want to say, if you were one of these people that predicted that, you are a great prognosticator. Congratulations. Now, I think it's pretty cool that Drayden actually remembers Ash. Now, we saw this before with Chuck, but I think it's pretty cool that these gym leaders are remembering Ash and their battles with him. So that's pretty cool. Anyways, Go catches up, and they head inside. Ash meets Iris again, and she has a pretty interesting and grand intro. And as it turns out, she's actually now the champion of the Unova region. Yeah. So, ever since her and Ash parted ways, and the last time we saw her in the series, yeah, she is now the champion of the Unova region. That is crazy. I was not expecting that. When I saw her in that outfit, in her champion outfit from Black and White 2, I wasn't expecting her to be champion, but this was a total surprise, so wow, I guess Iris is Ash's strongest companion now, canonically. I mean, she's a champion of the Unova region, so she has to be. Now, it wouldn't be the Iris episode if Iris didn't call Ash a little kid. Just like old times. But, of course, Ash gets angry at this, and Ash is like, hey, you're a kid too. And Iris retorts, well, I'm the champion. I'm not a kid. And this is where Ash should have said, hey, I'm also a champion too. I won the Alola League. You might be Unova's champion, but I'm Alola's champion. So shut up. I also like the moment before the battle where Ash calls out his Dragonite and it immediately hugs Iris, because this Dragonite just loves hugging people. Nice wholesome content here. But anyways, I liked how Iris understands Dragonite's feelings, which Go sees for the first time, which was nice. But it's just funny seeing Iris's Dragonite in contrast to Ash's Dragonite, which we have Iris's Dragonite, very serious, not exactly very friendly, but then we have Ash's Dragonite, which is very lovable, very friendly, and is kind of scared of Iris's Dragonite. But anyways, moving on to the battle, we have Ash versus Iris, two champions facing off against one another, and it's a 2v2 battle, and they're both gunning for the Hyper class. And Ash is pretty close himself. He's at the 184th place, so if he wins this battle, he's in the Hyper class. So it's Dragonite versus Dragonite starting off this battle. Now, the battle begins and Iris has an immediate advantage, immediately using Dragon Rush, and Ash's Dragonite struggles during this part of the battle. and is having a pretty tough time, and actually nearly gets defeated. So Ash ends up recalling Dragonite and actually takes out Dracovich because it's a dragon battle, so he's only using his dragon Pokemon. Which, it's funny here, Iris actually finds Dracovich to be cute. Okay. Anywho, so this is Dracovich's first official battle. And I have to say, I'm pretty impressed here. And especially like what Ash does. He basically has Dracovich chomp on Dragonite's head, so it can't hear Iris's commands. So, no matter what Iris tells Dragonite here, yeah, it can't hear it. So Dracovich ends up using Ice Fang on Dragonite and freezes it. And just like that, Dragonite is defeated. However, Iris has a trump card on her hand, and she takes out what is revealed to be a Haxorus. Yes, her Axnew has evolved into a Haxorus. And that is crazy. That blew my mind when I found that out. So yeah, people that predicted that, give yourself a pat on the back, because you're great prognosticators. But anyways, what Iris does here is smart, because Dracovich basically is dangerous up front. That's what took out Dragonite. She actually attacks from a distance and actually manages to take out Dracovich pretty easily. So Dracovich is down, so Ash is forced to take out his Dragonite again, who has sustained damage, whereas Iris's Haxorus has not taken any damage yet, so Ash is at a disadvantage. Now, despite the fact that Dragonite uses Dragon Dance to basically even the odds out, it is still struggling quite a bit against Haxorus and takes a few attacks. And even though Haxorus actually ends up getting confused, in a moment that I thought was pretty cool, it actually slams its head on the ground and is no longer confused. Pretty neat, I have to say. Now, I like the moment between Iris and Dragonite, as Iris realizes that Dragonite is very tensed up. Not exactly having a lot of fun in this battle, so Iris reaches out to Dragonite to basically relax, and basically reaches out and touches Dragonite's heart, explaining that, hey, you must really like Ash, so relax a little, and see how fun battling is. Look at my Haxorus when it was an Axnew all the way up until it was a Haxorus that learned how fun battling could be. So I think that if you were to relax a little bit and enjoy the moment, you will have a lot of fun too. I don't know, I thought this was a really nice moment. And we go from one great moment to another great moment. So Ash has Dragonite use Hurricane, and it uses it on itself. And Haxorus starts attacking it, but the Hurricane acts as a barrier. And this Hurricane gets so powerful, it basically spreads into the sky. And this was awesome. This is a total Ash Ketchum move. So, what Ash did here was basically build up this Hurricane, and it allowed Dragonite here to learn a new move on the spot. And as Iris was attacking this Hurricane, it basically built up. And it turned that Hurricane into a Draco Meteor, which Ash turned on Iris. And as a result of taking this Draco Meteor head on, Haxorus has been defeated. Dragonite wins, so Ash wins the battle and actually defeated a champion. As a result of winning this battle, Ash is now ranked 99 in the Pokemon World Championships. That's right, Ash is now in the top 100 in the Hyper class. Awesome! And that's pretty much where the episode comes to an end. And more on the last frame of the episode in a little bit. We got a few things to talk about that, but anyways, that's where the episode comes to an end. So overall, this was a fantastic episode. Fantastic episode. Definitely one of the strongest Journeys episodes to date. I have to say, if this is how Ash's former traveling companions are going to be handled when they make their return to the Pokemon Journey series, if this is how it's going to be handled, I'm all for it. This is exactly what I want to see from Pokemon Journeys. This episode was fantastic. We got an excellent battle. We got a traveling companion that Ash used to travel with return in a good way too. It develops Iris's character in a very good way. She is now the champion of Unova. That's awesome. There's just so many good things in this episode. Axnew evolved. That was awesome. Dracovich actually was useful in this episode and did a really good job in its first battle in the Pokemon World Championships. That's great. As you can tell, I love this episode. It was fantastic. Now, some other things I liked in this episode. I liked the callbacks in this episode. Like the callbacks to Ash's travels with Iris and Silent back in Unova back in the day. And the journey style in Best Wishes looks really nice. It looks really clean. That was pretty cool. I like the callbacks with Go throwing a Pokeball at Iris, and that's how he met her, mirroring how Ash threw a Pokeball and hit Iris in the head back when he met her. So I like the parallels there. I like how it mirrored each other. That was great. It was just overall a fantastic episode. Now, there were two issues I do have with this episode. Overall, this is a fantastic episode, don't get me wrong, but there were two issues I did have with this episode that prevents it from being a 10 out of 10 episode. So, the first gripe I have with this episode, and I mentioned this during the summary, is that Ash didn't mention to Iris that he's a champion as well. There were several points in this episode where Ash could have actually mentioned this, and he didn't, which I find to be pretty weird considering this is a follow-up to Sun and Moon, and we have all the previous series getting mentioned left and right, so you'd think he would mention this. Yet he doesn't. I don't know, that's kind of weird, especially when Iris brings up the fact that she's Unova's champion. As soon as Ash found that out, he could have mentioned it right then and there. And then when Iris called him a kid, and Ash called her a kid, and then she's like, well, I can't be a kid, I'm Unova's champion. Ash should have burned her right back and said, well, guess what? You can't call me a kid because I'm Alola's champion. Top that one. I don't know. I just find it kind of weird that Ash didn't mention his champion status to Iris in this episode. And the other gripe I have with this episode is the fact that Go and Iris barely interacted with one another in the episode. I get that the main focus was Ash versus Iris, but Go met Iris in the episode in a way that was similar to how Ash met Iris, and yet they barely interacted. Go didn't even get to tell her about his goal, which I found to be disappointing as well. Now, Iris does say at the end of the episode that she wants to catch right back up to Ash, so she could appear again sometime down the road, and maybe then Go will get to interact with Iris a bit more. But in this episode, I was a bit disappointed that they didn't get to talk with one another very much. Like, compared to the Alola gang, in which Go got to know them, he didn't really get to know Iris, so that was a bit disappointing in my opinion. Now, before I close off the video, I want to talk about that last frame from this episode. You know, the one with all the silhouettes of characters that Ash is going to face off against in the Hyper Class of the Pokemon World Championships? Yeah, that frame alone gets me extremely hyped, no pun intended, for the Hyper Class of the Pokemon World Championships. I'm super stoked for the upcoming battles in the series, because there are going to be some pretty big ones. So, there are two characters here that we can easily identify. We have Bee, who, well, it's not a surprise that she's in the Hyper Class. When Ash faced off against her last time, she was almost in the Hyper Class then, so this makes sense. But on the very left, we have Volkner. You know, Volkner from Sinnoh, the last gym leader in the Sinnoh region. That guy had a pretty interesting battle with Ash in the Diamond and Pearl series. Yeah, I'm excited for that one. I'm really excited for that one. I think that that's going to be a pretty good battle. There's some good potential for some good flashbacks in that episode, some callbacks to Diamond and Pearl. Yeah, I am looking forward to that. And maybe Flint will make an appearance in that episode. So, I'm all for this episode. I think that this is going to be potentially a really good episode in the future of Pokemon Journeys. Now, I can't say this with a lot of certainty, but there is a character here that looks a lot like Sabrina from Kanto. And if this is the case and Ash faces off against her in the future Pokemon Journeys, that is going to be another huge episode. Because, well, yeah, they didn't really battle back in the original series. The first time Ash tried to battle her, she basically stomped him and almost trapped him forever at the gym in her dollhouse. Forever. Yeah, that happened. And then the second time Ash tried to face off against her, Haunter made her laugh, and because she laughed, she gave Ash the badge. Yeah. So, needless to say, an actual battle between the two, is needed. And I've got to say, if that actually does happen, I'll be supremely happy, and I think it would be a really good episode. And some nice flashbacks as well. But there are a lot of characters here that I can't identify, so I don't really know who else they're going to bring into the Hyperclass in the future. But regardless, I am super hyped for the Hyperclass, or Ultra Class, whatever you want to call it, in Pokemon Journeys. But with that all said, that's all I got for this episode review. So overall, this was an excellent episode. Definitely one of Journey's best episodes. I'm going to give this episode a 9.5 out of 10. So guys in the comment section down below, tell me what you thought of this episode. Did you love it? Did you hate it? Post your thoughts in the comment section down below. If you're new to the channel, be sure to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell. And I'll talk to you guys later. See ya.